Hello and welcome to Spirit Among Us. We all have desires in our hearts. We all have things that we hope for, things that we look forward to, things that we wish could be. But unfortunately for us, these desires don't always work out the way we want them to. Just because we want something to happen doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And that's often because that's not the way God wants things to happen. He doesn't want those things for us. And that's because just because we want something doesn't mean that it is good. Just because we desire something doesn't mean that it's good and beneficial to us. And that also doesn't mean that God will necessarily give it to us just because we want it. For instance, if we want something that's going to hurt us, if we want something that's going to bring us harm, then God probably won't let us have it. He's probably not just going to give it to us. Especially if that hurt or that thing, whatever it is, will bring us away from Him. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we can't walk away from God, that He's controlling our actions. He gives us the choice to walk away from Him or not. But God doesn't want to intentionally put something in our way, put something in our lives that's going to keep us from Him. He wants us to avoid that. He doesn't want us to be led astray, and that only makes sense. Because truly, when we're led astray, that's when we will face the most pain and destruction. That's when we won't have the lives that are best, the lives He wants for us. So the example of something hurting us is a desire that we can have that isn't necessarily what God wants for us and isn't necessarily something He's going to give to us. But not all desires are bad. Just because you desire something doesn't make it bad. If it's a sinful desire, then it is bad, but not all desires are this way. And as we come to know God more and more, our desires naturally begin to change. As we get more of His perspective, as we grow closer to Him and understand His love and understand how He sees the world, we begin to understand why He wants the things He wants. You see, when we understand God's love for us, then we can trust Him with His plan for our lives. We can trust that He doesn't want to bring harm on us, that He doesn't want to give us painful lives. He wants us to have the best lives possible. And He wants to ultimately always lead us closer to Him. So as we grow closer to Him, we begin to understand this, and our desires begin to change. And that's why God gives us this promise in Psalms that He will give us our desires. Psalm chapter 37 verses 3 and 4. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. God desires certain things for our lives. He desires what is best because He loves us. He cares about us, and He wants what is best for us. The thing is, we don't always actually want what's best for us. We want what we think we know is best, but just because we think it's best doesn't mean that it's actually even good at all. We tend to want some of the wrong things sometimes. Not all the time. Not all of our desires are wrong, like I was saying before, but we tend to want things that aren't necessarily good. But as we know Jesus and know our Father more and more, our desires shift from what's good to what's best. And that happens when we make Him our delight. If God is the love of our lives, and if He is the reason we want to keep on living, then we will end up wanting what He wants. And I can't stress this enough. Wanting what God wants is not a bad thing, because God doesn't just want things a certain way because that's the way He prefers them. That's just the way He wants things to happen. That's not who our God is. He knows what is best. He knows what will be the most beneficial. He knows what will bless us the most, and what will give us the best, most fulfilling, and God-centered lives possible. So his desires, and his desires for our lives specifically, are the best desires. So this is who our God is. When we make him our delight, he wants to bless us. And when we make him our chief pursuit, he gives us the desires of our hearts. Thank you for watching, and God bless.